Hey fellas, Dan Brokos from Lead Faucet Tactical. Today on RECOIltv Training Tune-Ups, we're going to talk about carbine setup. There's really no right or wrong answer on how you set up your carbine, but there's some key components I would say you must have on your carbine, and today we're going to talk over those. Let's start with our good 2-point sling. Some type of device to retain our sling. Of course, we need to have a set of iron sights, whether we're running a red dot or a barrel powered optic. I choose to be running a red dot on this setup. We also need to have some type of hand brace or stop, a white light, a mount for our white light if it doesn't directly mount, and some type of tape switch and a push button to keep our light permanently on. All right, let's talk about each one of the components on this, starting with my front sight. If I'm running a red dot, I prefer a 12 o'clock mount. If you'd already tuned into a previous episode, I talked about the importance of this with my line of sight bore access for shooting support side and as well as awkward positions. I suggest this thing always stays up. Under stress, you're not going to remember to flip your front sight up. Let's go down to our white light. No right or wrong answer. Even with a laser, I prefer to mount it on my right hand side, so when I roll it over on my strong side under vehicles, it's lower to the ground and allows me to get there. Also on my light, I need it really tight to my rail. Strong support. I can come over my light and hit my tape switch for my light right here. It's nice and tight to the rail. If it's way out here, I'm not going to be able to grip this thing both strong and support side. On your white light, you need to have a switch that allows it for a constant on. If you're ever down into a contingency of one-arm gunfight and all I have is a white light, I can't sit there and hold my tape switch. I have to have the ability to switch it on, get into a one-hand position, get up there and switch it back off. I'm also running the tape switch on this light, and I prefer at 12 o'clock. Again, you got to think ambidextrous, and it's right there where my hand should be in my shooting position, so I can actuate my white light strong, my white light support. This light being close and this right at the 12 o'clock position allows me to actuate the light not only standing up, but behind positions of cover as well, using my cover for support. We'll go right on into my hand brace or hand stop. These aren't designed to be shot like this. We know the 80s and 90s are over, but these are great tools for posting up just like this on a piece of cover. Good support between the weapon and the piece of cover. It also allows awkward shooting positions, not only with the hand and even shooting out of a helicopter, pulling it up with my feet. There's plenty of contingency positions that I can use this brace for. Let's go down to your optic. There's plenty of them out there. Choose a good red dot optic. Also be aware of this. Between the center of our chamber and the center of our dot is called height above bore. We shouldn't get out of a certain window on height above bore. Make sure you got a good optic and my mount's not too high. Average rule of thumb between 2.5 and 2.85 inches, your good height above bore and your ballistics will be true to speak. Rear sight. We talked about the front sight. Hey, if this thing ever goes down, have the ability to flip up my rear sight. Now I got the old set of iron sights going on if I ever lose my red dot. On my sling, have a good 2-point sling. Thing I like about 2-point slings, I can have the ability to cinch it nice and tight. If I need to put hands on somebody, throw it over my back, cinch it down. Dragging a casualty, climbing something, it's always nice to have a good 2-point sling. On that with my sling, I always run. There's a lot of devices out there that retain slings. This is just a simple piece of bungee. If ever in a vehicle, I can roll this sling on up or store it if I need to be. Nice and tight, cinch on it. I get no excess slack hanging off if I need this for vehicle operations. All right, I'd say the most important part on your carbine is your trigger. Whether it's flat face like this or curved, there's a lot of non-traditional styles of triggers coming out there. In the end, I can just tell you this, stick with a good combat trigger. Single, two-stage, I can't tell you, I prefer two-stage, but they're not super light. 4.5, 6 pounds, that's a good combat trigger, good duty trigger, and that's what I should say. Stick with a good duty trigger. Anything too light will cause a malfunction, springs are breaking, and I need to pick a little bit of slack. People make mistakes. Don't go with anything too light. Also, over the years, it's like, hey Dan, try out this trigger. Hey Dan, try out this trigger. That's a learning curve. Learn your trigger. That's the most important part. Every time you're switching out triggers, you're starting the learning curve over. Try out various triggers, see what works for you, but it's a very important piece of your weapon. Hey fellas, this is my setup. Again, I started off with there's no right or wrong answers. This is based on almost 27 years in the military, 21 of those been in the Army soft community. Try out what works for you. On that note, it needs to work both strong and support side, day and night. If it works for you, you can't go wrong.